I want to invite a special couple up today, and that is my twin sister Linda and my brother-in-law Larry. They're going to be sharing today in the next few minutes And Brother Tom, will you get me a microphone for Linda, please? And, Rodney's got it. But Linda and Larry, they've been, of course, a special part of my life for a long, long time. And one of the things that I've noticed about them over the many, many years from when I was just a youngster was their faithfulness to God. And I even remember how y'all used to do in church, I think it was pins or something for years of not missing church or Sunday school or something like that. And so faithfulness to God is a big thing. I know it's not just about church attendance. I know it's about many different things, but just loving the Lord with all your heart. And Linda and Larry, though, they have been a blessing to me. They really have. And I wanted to be able to share publicly their testimony today. And I want you to know that when you go through tough things, God is still there for you. He's still there with you. And so I'm going to let Linda, would you just tell us, how did things start out? Y'all been married for quite a long while. How long?
51 years almost.
51 years almost.
December.
All right. And so that's a long, long time. Yeah, that would have been a good place to clap. It really would have. And so, yeah, 51 years. And so tell us a little bit about how all of that started, if you would.
Well, Larry was a senior in high school when I was a freshman, so he never even looked my way. But when we both got in college, he was a senior and I was a freshman in college. And us Hatfield kids hung out together, and that's where we got together. And he actually proposed to me on January 22nd, 1972, and we got married the following December 15th.
I was just a baby then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
We've got 3 kids. Our oldest son is Christopher, our middle son's Barry. And then when they were 16 and 12, God blessed us with a little girl. Her name is Carrie, and she's 33 now and has a little boy who's 3. And we have, counting 2 step-grandsons, we have 8 grandkids. And each one gets prettier. Each one that's born is better and better. Yeah. God's blessed us so many ways.
Yeah. And Larry, you were, of course, a teacher, an administrator. Y'all have to help me out on that. And so,
Larry had a degree in business administration, and he was managing a grocery store. And his boss at the time said, can't give you a raise right now, but I can let you off to drive the school bus morning and night. And so he kind of got his foot in the door that way. And then the superintendent approached him and says, how much do you lack in your education being able to teach? And he said, I want to hire you to teach. And so he went back to school and got certified to teach. And then later went back and got his master's. And he taught school for 25 years, but he had driven a bus for 5 years before that. And so he's had a lot of years teaching that. He was always working. He would go drive the bus to school, teach school all day, drive it home, come in and change clothes and go haul hay or cut firewood or do something, mow lawns. He was so active. And in 2007, things started going bad for him. He started out having trouble with his hands and then kind of weak, and he fell a few times. And went to the doctor. They said, you got carpal tunnel syndrome. You got restless leg syndrome. All of that was wrong. They sent us to Fort Smith to a neurologist. They said, you've got MS. So we started taking MS medicine, took MS medicine for 6 months. He kept going downhill and downhill. He went from unsteady on his feet to a cane to a wheelchair. The only thing the MS medicine did was made me gain weight. We switched to a doctor in Hot Springs, and that wasn't still not doing any good. He kept getting worse and worse. So we said, we want to go somewhere else, and they sent us to Houston. The doctor down there, after looking at his MRI, says, you don't have MS. So they put him in the hospital across the street, kept him for 8 days. He did 5 days of IVIG, it was called. He was doing this. When we went in, he couldn't stop doing this with both hands. And that kind of stopped that. It got better. But we came back home, went back in a couple of weeks, and they says, we don't think that's what you've got after all. We want to do more tests. He's had 10 MRIs, 9 spinal taps, hundreds of vials of blood taken, every test you could imagine. And finally, they said, well, we want to do some more tests. And they went back a 3rd time to Houston. I didn't go that time because I had hurt my back lifting him. And so our son and daughter-in-law took him. And they were very rude at that time. And
Not the son and daughter-in-law.
no, not the son and daughter. The doctors were very rude. They came in at 3 a.m. to give him a bath. They came in at 1 o'clock to do another MRI, different things. But anyway, long story short, too late. We came back and started trying to get into UAMS in Little Rock, and finally did with the help of our state representative. What was his name?
He taught school up here.
Yeah, he taught school up here. What was his name?
Oh,
His Ode Maddox's son-in-law.
yeah.
Anyway, we can't think right now. But anyway, he called the dean of the school and got us in. And amongst other things, while he was there, they found out he had prostate cancer. They had done a PSA test at Houston, but they never mentioned it to us. Well, he had prostate cancer, and that may have been what caused some of this to start. It was a type of autoimmune disease, and no one knew where it started. So he had these bad antibodies. So they gave him a chemotherapy pill for 18 months, got rid of the antibodies. They also did a plasma apheresis that filtered out those bad antibodies. And so he's not getting worse, except that he's lost a lot of muscle. And then they did surgery for his prostate cancer. And God's good. It could have been many other things. They said most everyone that has what he had, which now I think they're calling it Lambert-Eaton syndrome. Then they called it voltage-gated potassium channeling antibodies, which is a mouthful.
Did y'all get all that? Can y'all repeat that back to me?
I've said it many times. It's the only way I can remember it.
This guy right here, not only has he blessed me in so many ways, but understand again that he has been one of the most hardworking individuals that you could ever imagine, from hauling hay and cutting firewood and everything. And I can only imagine, Larry, that this had to be just the transition into not being able to do those things. I would have thought that would have been
Right.
emotionally hard, maybe. Am I right on that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so how were y'all able to cope with that? Just the transition. Yeah.
The grace of God.
Yeah.
That's all. And I won't lie to you. We both had some depression. It's been really hard, and I'm sure my son says he's in the world's smallest prison because he can't do what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. But with God's help, we've persevered, and we're pressing onward.
Yeah. And so you also then had a terrible tragedy back just a very few years ago. Linda and Larry had quite a few cattle. I don't know the number on their farm. And so Linda then, she took care of those primarily by herself. And She got into a situation while working cattle, I believe it was, and had a terrible accident. Can you tell us what happened there?
We had moved some cows from down at Hatfield back up to the farm at Potter, and they were mad at us. The cows were mad at us. We took their babies because
Did they have mad cow disease or?
No.
Okay, I was just
We took their babies, and we're going to sell them, and we were going to vaccinate the cows because we hadn't had a chance to do that. And this one cow, as I closed the gate behind her, she saw me in her peripheral vision, and she kicked that gate as hard as she could. It's a big old iron gate that our son had made, and hit me right between the eyes. And she meant to do some harm, and she did. I backed up and went down on my knees, and Tony Fairless was helping me work the cows, and he says, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah, just give me a minute." He come over there, he says, "We got to go to the hospital." I said, "No, just give me a minute."
She wasn't all right.
I had broken brow bones, and I'm fortunate I've only got a small scar, but I had a concussion, and I went over to the hydrant and hosed my blood off of myself before went to the hospital. My sister met me there and said,
I'm not going to say this out loud, but she looked pretty rough in the hospital that day, though.
Yeah.
She did.
I look like roadkill. I called Lori on the way and said, "Call my family. I can't see to call everybody, but I could call her." And so she called my family, and she said when I got to the hospital, "How come you're all wet?" I said, "Well, I had to hose the blood off before I could come in." But I spent 3 days in the hospital. I had a large brain bleed that they said they couldn't deal with in Mena, so they sent me on to Fort Smith. But God bless me. My son that lives in Clarksville came and got Larry and our little dog and took him to Clarksville, and my older son took me to West Fork and took care of me for a couple of weeks. And I'd made the mistake, y'all, don't ever do this. I was having a pity party of a few weeks before that, and I said, "Lord, I get so tired sometimes of doing it all, taking care of everybody. Be nice to someone, take care of me." Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
Never say that.
It's no fun. I hated it. I would rather be the one taking care of someone. And I'm so blessed. They said most everybody that has what Larry has dementia. His mind is clear. I'm so thankful for that. Yeah. He's such a good husband.
Yeah. So Larry, when Linda's accident happened, that for a time period left you there, unable to be with her, and I know she was in the hospital. What were you thinking at that time?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who can take care of me and all the stuff.
Yeah.
He wondered who was going to take care of him and everything. Now, he didn't not eat while I was sick, while I was in the hospital. But our little dog didn't eat for 5 days.
Oh, my.
But Barry took good care of Larry, and after a few days, was about a week, we went back to West Fork, to Clarksville, and brought Larry to West Fork to be with me because I couldn't take care of him by myself, but our son was there and he could help. And our son's next door neighbor was going on vacation and said, "Y'all can stay in our house," because they didn't have extra beds at Christopher's house. But the neighbors just across the lawn said, "Come and stay in our house." And we did. We had our own house, so we had some privacy, and they had privacy. Christopher would cook for us every day and bring it across the lawn to Mark and Deb's house, and it was good. It was really good.
I'm going to ask a different question now, and that is, and we've all been through situations in life, okay? But with the things that you two have gone through in life, how has that, if it has, how has that affected your relationship with God?
Not really.
Not a bit.
Made it stronger.
Yeah. Made you strong, yeah. You know, none of us here today know exactly what they have faced, the day-to-day things they have faced. I know more than some of you, but I don't have a clue. I don't have a clue. But I will tell you that it's been a tough journey. And the big takeaway that I have from their lives is the testimony of their faithfulness to God in the midst of all of this, and above that, God's faithfulness to them. He's kept them and kept them strong. But I'm sure you've had some weak moments. I'm sure you've had some weak moments. But I want to say publicly to y'all, thank you for being a light to us. And we're inspired by the two of you. By the way, if anyone doesn't know, Linda also, since she had nothing else to do, she's also the mayor of Hatfield, and so in her spare time. But anyway, thank y'all for sharing. Yes, go ahead.
God has blessed us so much because of what we have gone through. We can help other people. Now we have such a better understanding of what handicap accessible means, and it's been a blessing because now I can help other people because I've been there and done that. Yeah. He's really blessed us.
Yeah, awesome.
And we're blessed to be here. We love y'all.
Yeah. We love y'all too. Amen. Would you give God a hand today? It's been a good day. It's been a good day.